Hey, hey, and welcome to Connections, Coffee, and Confidence with me, Janice. I recently hired someone to help me out in my business, a bookkeeper. I started a bookkeeping course because tracking your money and staying legal, they're really important. And I'm pretty smart, so I could totally do that, right? But guess what? I hated it. It was online, self-directed learning, and I think I probably could have worked my way through it if there was a real person talking to me, but as it was, I couldn't hack it. I hated it. So I hired someone to take care of it for me, and all of a sudden, my life is just that little bit easier. And what about you? The way that the financial thing is heavy for me, I'm hearing that social media, getting media coverage, basically marketing and PR is difficult. Have you thought about contracting out? Does it give you a little case of nerves? Well, if so, there are a few things you should set up in order to make that process smoother. And that is what today is all about. Hi, I'm Janice Fogarty, and I'm a communications strategist and consultant. The Connections, Coffee, Confidence podcast is for professional women entrepreneurs who have established themselves and their business, and they're ready to get serious about using the power of communication to surpass their business goals. On this podcast, I discuss everything from leadership to establishing a business vision to the intricacies of creating messaging, publicity, and more. I speak to women who excel in communications in their business, whatever they do, and get an inside look at how they created a thriving livelihood. So top up your mug and welcome to this week's episode. With regards to my financials, I did have a system of sorts set up that I used. I actually got it from Susie Rains in episode 29, which I'll link to because it's all about budgeting. However, a budgeting system is not what my accountant is going to need come tax time, so I really needed to get my act together. I had a chat with a friend of mine who's going out on her own as a bookkeeper. She was able to take the original system I was using and formalize it, plug in the gaps to make it work, no matter who was working on it. She told me what I needed to do, what she needed access to, and how things were going to work from this day forward. Which is brilliant. I know what's expected of me, I know what she's doing, and I know the result. There's a framework, and you know I love a framework. The same thing happens when you want to hand off your content creation, for example. What if you have a goal of increasing visibility and awareness of your target market over the next 6 months, and you want to guest write blogs, or bump up your social media presence with a new strategy, or get booked on podcasts, and all of those things sound really good to you. You know they make sense for your business and your current goals. But the idea of actually following through makes you feel like the weight of the world has been plunked on your shoulders. Like every web page you'd need to scroll through to reach your goal has an actual physical page weight, and boy, those things add up fast, especially when that word stuff is not in your comfort zone. Then the logical thing to do is outsource or hire someone to do it for you. But what about brand integrity, I hear you say? Okay, I probably don't, because does anyone outside of PR and marketing really use that phrase, brand integrity? I doubt it. But what about keeping my brand or my business mine? What about my killer sense of humor or my crazy good dance moves? Nobody can replicate those? To which I say yes. Yes, you do need to protect that which makes your stuff yours, aka your brand integrity, your authenticity, your way of keeping it real. Now look, I have a wee side note here, as so far I've only talked about hiring or outsourcing. But what if you're not ready to take that step? What if you're a new business establishing and building your offers and brand? Right now, you have complete control over what you look like, what you sound like. It's most likely a soft and fuzzy idea in your head. Or you just have a Canva template that you use and reuse without much intention besides you must post something, so here it is. This is a great time to establish your brand identity, to formalize what your company looks like and sounds like, to create the foundation to build on. So whether you're ready to outsource or ready to just get serious about what your brand looks like, keep listening. Now take a moment and have a look at the massive brands that you know, the brands that you use every day. You know their stuff when you hear it or see it because their brand is kept intact by everyone who is creating the content or the stuff for that company. You see their ads or their social media, or you read about them in some other form of media, and then you see their product, and you can connect them together based on the cohesion of how they represent themselves. That doesn't happen by osmosis. There isn't something in the water or a hypnotic suggestion as part of the induction training. The brand is kept uniform by everyone being clear on what is and what is not acceptable, what the company looks like and sounds like to the world at large and particularly to its target audiences, and then doing that. They all have a framework, a brand guide, or a brand manual. And if you're looking at trusting someone else to do your representative work, that is, the work that represents your company, what the outside world sees and hears, you need to tell them what you want that to look and sound like. You need to tell them just how to represent you. Think of every job you've ever had. The good ones had a training component where maybe you had a uniform or a dress code, a script or a procedure for how certain things were handled. This is the same thing, except now it's you making the decisions and entrusting someone else to follow your rules. And those rules are written in your brand guide. This involves some work on your part, I know. I try not to add work to you when I suggest things in this podcast. I try and streamline things and make them easier, make you think about them a little differently. But this is one of those cases where, frankly, you just need to do a little bit of work now to save yourself work down the road. But in the spirit of keeping things easier for you, I have created a template guide you can use. Head to my website, janisfogarty.com, and go to DIY PR Resources. You'll find my brand guide waiting for you. And considering this is going to take a bit of work, let's have a wee chat about what's in it for you, why you want to add this to your list of things to do, no matter what stage of your business. First, a cohesive brand identity starts to build an awareness and recognition. It lays the foundation for your reputation. The world is noisy. You know that. We are bombarded by texts and images and sounds and, frankly, silliness. It now takes an estimated 21 touches for someone to begin recognizing your brand. So you want those touches to all sound or look similar. Repetition builds that awareness and familiarity more quickly than random posts and activities. Second, a cohesive brand identity builds on that initial awareness. The more someone sees your stuff, the more easily they'll identify your work when they see, read, or hear it. That familiarity and consistency in representation builds the know, like, trust factor. After all, familiarity creates a level of comfort. When you know what to expect, it builds trust. And as humans, we prefer to do business with someone or with a brand we recognize and are comfortable with. Third, that consistency and familiarity creates an increased perceived value. In other words, when the materials that represent your business present a reliable and arguably attractive look, it creates an impression of a slick and professional operation, one you want to have on your team, working on your behalf or working with you on your projects, and that is a good look. Fourth, when you have a brand guide, you can do these amazing things such as, create ads, posts, design your website, create an email template, and so much more, with so less stress and time wasting. The document lays out all the moving parts for you. It makes all of the major design decisions before you're stuck in the project, meaning you just sit down and follow the steps. You just do the work. Now, I will say your messaging is the thing that fills in the rest of that gap. When it comes to the words that you need to write or include in whatever you're creating, there needs to be strategy behind the intent, and that's your messaging. But for the rest of it, brand guide. And last but not least, when you've mapped out what you want your company to look like, how you want it represented, then you can rest assured that whoever you bring on to help you out or even take over your content creation or PR or marketing work, well, they're going to have something to work off of. As long as they can read and follow instructions, they have a starting point that covers all of the basic questions about how to get started. It's like an instruction manual for representing you. You can hand over your responsibilities, secure in the knowledge that your company's brand is in safe hands, because essentially it's in hands that you shaped. The work will get done to your standard without you needing to be hands-on. It smooths the transition. No one should even notice that your work is being created by someone else. If you've ever looked a brand guide up online, you've probably seen some really heavy-duty ones for big brands with lots of moving pieces and parts. It seems overwhelming, but I promise you it's not. At least it doesn't have to be. So if you're at a stage where you want to offload some of your creative work, then some straightforward guidelines are what's called for. And what's on offer today. A brand guideline covers the visual and the emotional, or what I think of as the wordy bit. When you're looking to outsource your content creation, the external person may not need both, but it's handy to have it all there just in case. It makes for easier expansion of responsibilities down the road. The wordy bit covers your mission statement or your vision for your business. This is what everything else stems from. Like, why have a mission statement of providing fashion-forward styling for professional women and then show pictures of fields and babies? Or have a logo that has a chintz background? Like, I'm reaching a bit, but the words are the basis of your brand guideline. What words will you use and what words will you never use? Do you swear? Do you use slang or jargon? When it comes to shaping how you share your message, you rely on your brand guide. And the visual covers everything from the logo and the colors you use, how you use them, to the fonts or typography that you use. What kind of pictures represent your business? Are you okay with cartoons, or does everything need to be a real image? Do you use people or only scenic pics? Do you use pictures at all? What about font? Like, do you use script or serif, sans serif fonts? And where do you put your logo? What do you want your identity to look like? You answer that in your guide. So if you're building or you're at a stage where you need to offload some of your content creation, a brand guide will help keep your brand identity cohesive. It'll contribute to your reputation, increase people's impression of your company, and really just make life easier for whoever is creating your content, even if that person is you. You can get a template to work from at janicefogarty.com, and I will link to it in the show notes. Oh, hey, and just before you go, I have a little pitch of my own to make. When this episode goes live, I'm nearing episode 100. I know. In the next 100 episodes, I'm aiming to grow this audience, and ratings and reviews are a huge part of that. I am so grateful that you choose to spend some of your precious time with me in your ears. And if you enjoy this podcast, I'd be extra grateful if you left me a review and a rating. And, I'm hoping for a full 5 stars there. My way of saying thank you for those who take the time to rate and review, then screenshot it and tag me on Instagram at Janice E. Fogarty, is to enter you in to win a 30-minute session with me, so we can discuss whatever communications challenge you and your business are facing right now. Irrespective, I really appreciate your continued support. And until next week, my friend, have a fan-freaking-tastic rest of your day. Thanks so much for listening this week. I invite you to sign up for my email list or join me in the Connections Coffee and Confidence community on Facebook. Those are the people who get first dibs on any classes or products I create, and they benefit from the extras I can't get into in a podcast format. I also lovingly request that if you've enjoyed this podcast, you leave a review on Apple. When I see a new review, I get so excited I almost spill my cappuccino froth. Almost. And if you're a woman entrepreneur who's ready to get serious about using the power of communications to grow your business, send me an email at janice@janicefogarty.com. All my details are in the show notes. Thank you again for listening today, and I'll chat with you again next week.